Hey students, what's up? Are you gearing up for your board exams in 2026? I've got a super exciting video for you today that will help you lock in a solid 8 to 10 marks. Easy peasy. We're diving into the Civics Chapter, Federalism, with a complete one-shot revision. So, grab your notebooks, and let's get started on ACing this chapter together. First things first, what exactly is federalism? In simple terms, it's a system of government where power is divided between a central authority and various constituent units of the country. Think of it as a power-sharing agreement. To understand this better, let's compare it with a unitary system. In a unitary system, there's only one level of government, or if there are subunits, they are subordinate to the central government. The central government can pass on orders to the local government. Think of the United Kingdom or France, but in a federal system, like in the United States or India. The central government cannot order the state government to do something. State governments have powers of their own for which they are not answerable to the central government. Both these governments are separately answerable to the people. So, what are the key features that make a country federal? Let's break it down. First, there are two or more levels, or tiers, of government. In India, we have the central government, state governments, and even local governments. Second, different tiers of government govern the same citizens, but each tier has its own jurisdiction in specific matters of legislation, taxation, and administration. This means they have their own areas of control. Third, the jurisdictions of the respective levels of government are specified in the Constitution, so the existence and authority of each tier is constitutionally guaranteed. Fourth, the fundamental provisions of the Constitution cannot be unilaterally changed by one level of government. Such changes require the consent of both levels of government. Fifth, and this is a crucial one, we have an independent judiciary. Courts have the power to interpret the Constitution and the powers of different levels of government. The highest court acts as an umpire if disputes arise between different levels of government. Now, let's talk about the different types of federations. There are mainly two routes through which federations have been formed. The first route is coming together federations. This involves independent states coming together on their own to form a bigger unit, so that by pooling sovereignty and retaining identity, they can increase their security. In this type of federation, all the constituent states usually have equal power and are strong with cives. The federal government, you can see this in countries like the USA, Switzerland, and Australia. The second route is holding together federations. This is where a large country decides to divide its power between the constituent states and the national government. India, Spain, and Belgium are examples of this kind of federation. In this second category, the central government tends to be more powerful than the states. Very often, different constituent units of the federation have unequal powers. Some units are granted special powers. India is a classic example of a holding together federation, and it's sometimes called a quasi-federal system because it has a strong central government. So, how does India, as a holding together federation, divide its powers? Our Constitution clearly provides a threefold distribution of legislative powers between the union government and the state governments. It contains 3 lists. First up is the Union List. This includes subjects of national importance, like defense, foreign affairs, banking, communications, and currency. Why are they on this list? Because we need a uniform policy on these matters throughout the country. The Union government alone can make laws relating to the subjects mentioned in the Union List. Next, we have the State List. This contains subjects of state and local importance such as police, trade, commerce, agriculture, and irrigation. The state governments alone can make laws relating to the subjects mentioned in the State List. Then, there's the Concurrent List. This includes subjects of common interest to both the union government as well as the state governments, such as education, forest, trade unions, marriage, adoption, and succession. Both the union as well as the state governments can make laws on these subjects. But if their laws conflict with each other, the law made by the union government will prevail. A special mention here for the 42nd Amendment of 1976, which transferred 5 subjects, including education, from the State List to the Concurrent List. Now, you might wonder, what about subjects that don't fall into any of these lists, like computer software or e-commerce, that came up after the Constitution was made? These are called residuary subjects, and according to our Constitution, the Union government has the power to legislate on these. Moving on, let's discuss a very sensitive but important aspect of Indian federalism, our language policy. The framers of our Constitution were very careful. India is a land of incredible linguistic diversity, so making any one language the national language could have been a disaster. Our Constitution did not give the status of national language to any one language. Hindi was identified as the official language, but it's the mother tongue of only about 40% of Indians. Therefore, there were many safeguards to protect other languages. Besides Hindi, there are 21 other languages recognized as scheduled languages by the Constitution. A candidate in an examination conducted for the central government positions may opt to take the examination in any of these languages. States to have their own official languages. For official purposes, the use of English along with Hindi was supposed to stop in 1965. However, many non-Hindi speaking states demanded that the use of English continue. The central government responded by agreeing to continue the use of English along with Hindi for official purposes. This flexibility shown by Indian political leaders helped our country avoid the kind of conflicts seen in places like Sri Lanka. Now, let's look at center-state relations. For a long time, the same party ruled both at the center and in most of the states. This meant that the state governments did not really exercise their rights as autonomous federal units. When the ruling party at the state level was different, the parties that ruled at the center often tried to undermine the power of the states. All this changed significantly after 1990. This period saw the rise of regional political parties in many states. This was also the beginning of the era of coalition governments at the center. Since no single party got a clear majority, the major national parties had to enter into an alliance with many parties, including several regional parties, to form a government at the center. This led to a new culture of power sharing and respect for the autonomy of state governments. This trend was supported by a major judgment of the Supreme Court that made it difficult for the central government to dismiss state governments in an arbitrary manner. Thus, federal power sharing is more effective today than it was in the early years. Finally, let us talk about a huge step our country took towards strengthening democracy at the grassroots level. Decentralization. We noted that federal governments have two or more tiers of governments, but a vast country like India cannot be run only through these two tiers. States in India are as large as independent countries of Europe. There is a need for power sharing within these states. This is the rationale for decentralization of power. A major step towards the centralization was taken in 1992. The 73rd and 74th constitutional amendments were passed to make the third tier of democracy more powerful and effective. This created the Panchayati Raj system for rural areas and municipalities for urban areas. What did these amendments do? They made it mandatory to hold regular elections for local government bodies. Seats are reserved for scheduled castes, scheduled tribes, and other backward classes. At least 1/3 of all positions are reserved for women. An independent institution called the State Election Commission was created in each state to conduct panchayat and municipal elections. This really empowered local communities to solve their own problems and increase democratic participation. Alright, that was a whirlwind tour of federalism. Let's do a super quick recap. We talked about what federalism is, its key features, the coming together and holding together types, India's 3 lists for power division, our flexible language policy, the evolution of center-state relations, and finally, the game-changing concept of decentralization through the 73rd and 74th Amendments. Now, as promised, here are the 5 most expected board questions from this chapter. 1. What are the key features of federalism? 2. Explain why India is described as a holding-together federation. 3. Differentiate between the Union list, State list, and Concurrent list, with examples. 4. What is decentralization, and what were the major steps taken towards it in 1992? And 5. Explain the role of India's language policy in strengthening the federation. Make sure you prepare these answers well. That's it for today's one-shot. Revise, study hard, stay focused, and you will definitely ace your board exams. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more amazing content. Thanks for watching.